Wine leaned back in her chair, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the rim of her coffee cup, while her gaze followed him across the room. To be precise, his room. She had been keeping an eye on him since he crossed her path. The surveillance cameras and hacked devices in his house gave her every information she wanted about him, while he remained unaware but scared somewhere. She was skilled at slipping into the background, always in the periphery, yet never close enough to be noticed. She would walk in his company, mixing herself among the staff, keeping a close eye on him like a skilled that she was at the start of her mafia career. She became hyper aware of his presence, how he moved, how he spoke, how his deep laugh vibrated through her. Every muscle in her body was tuned to him. She knew the exact way he furrowed his brow when something caught his attention, how his lips would twitch up when he found something amusing, how he would go crazy for strawberries, and how he disliked coffee but loved the smell of it. One had memorized the small quirks, and it thrilled her how unnoticed she remained, watching him as though she had discovered a secret universe. She would intensely observe him by sitting exactly behind him in the crew, while he would be busy practicing his dance moves. And when he looked around confused by the feeling that someone was watching him, she would disappear as if she was never there. After all, she is known as the Mafia Queen for a reason. She had observed all of him without even trying. She needed to know everything about him, every detail, every secret. She needed to know what made him tick, what made him smile, what could make him hurt, what he held dear, and what are the he won't bother to give. And she did, as she was just there, always there, a quiet witness to his life, and the thrill of it was intoxicating. Quietly, she had learned his schedule, his preferences, and how he was a social butterfly. He was friendly with everyone around him, even to a few females. She knew he wasn't in a relationship with anyone, but when she saw the way he smiled at one of his company's colleagues, his features softening, something primal twisted inside her. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts, and she hummed to let the person know her permission. Bowed, stood with his hands bound, and gazed on the floor without daring to speak without her permission. What brought you here? Master, your father. What about him? Still staring at the screen through which she was talking Taehyung's daily routine. He has asked me to remind you about Lee Min-jun's marriage proposal. He wants your final answer on that. He will get it tonight. Invite him to the dinner. In the church. Gulped as he knew a disaster was on its way. Yes, master. Bowed and left the room immediately. At night, Taehyung's POV. It has been 20 days since that incident, and I still get the chills while walking alone. I always feel like someone is watching me or walking behind me, but whenever I turn or look around, there is no one. Maybe I'm just traumatized from that encounter. I did not tell a single soul about that incident, as I don't want to put any other life in danger because of me. Right now, I'm walking on a very safe road, full of people, while wearing a cap and mask to hide my identity. And I'm only out because my car suddenly stopped in the middle of the road. Jeon is with the car to fix it, and I'm walking alone as my mansion is not far away. Otherwise, I don't step out alone even for a second. Taehyung suddenly looked behind as he again felt as someone was just right behind him, watching him, waiting for him. But found people busy in their own world. He started walking again while rubbing the back of his neck, trying to shake the strange prickling sensation that had been creeping upon him for weeks now. He exhaled sharply, trying to brush it off as paranoia. But that unsettling feeling, like someone's eyes were burning into him, watching his every move, never let him feel lonely. He breathed a sigh of relief as his moment to go. Without thinking, he was ready to rush inside when someone spread something on his face, and it almost felt like a sudden gush of wind. And before he could realize the happenings, the ground seemed to vanish beneath his feet, and black dots covered his vision completely. 2 hours later, Thanks had found it as he blinked awake, his body heavy and sluggish. For a moment, he could not tell where on earth he was. But as the blur started to fade, he looked around the dark chapel, panic evident in his eyes. His legs wobbled beneath him, and his arms were pinned tightly behind his back by thick ropes. He was barely standing, with something cold and heavy weighing down his chest. A tuxedo. He could not remember wearing it. He felt as if he was standing on his feet by someone's sport, and he tilted his head to take a look at. Slowly called Choi in a shocked tone. Where am I? He mumbled, panic rising in his throat. Choi did not move an inch, nor his straight expressions changed a bit. Taehyung looked to the front and once again he met his greatest nightmare, standing tall and frigid in a black suit, staring at him intensely, making him realize that he is now bound to this madness. Flinched and trembled. Please let me go, ma'am. I didn't tell a soul about that start. She ordered the priest, who was waiting for a command, pale and shaking but obediently silent. He immediately started reading the vows, causing time to struggle like a drowning man. To him, it all felt like a never-ending fever dream. He wasn't sure if she was punishing him for being the witness of bad days, or if she had become his suspect. Do you, Kim Taehyung, take kind wine to be your lawfully married wife, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, till death do you apart? The priest asked, his voice trembled. I'm not doing this. Shook his head vigorously, as now he felt as if he was losing his mind. Ignored Taehyung's protest and spoke, creating pin-drop silence in the church. Till death do us apart. No. Even death won't be able to distance me from you. I'll hunt you down and take you with me. Gave him a twisted smirk as if she was enjoying his condition. Taehyung's thought shouted at him that this had to be some kind of nightmare. But the pain in his wrists, the weight of the ropes, the maniacal gleam in Wine's eyes, it was all too real. Taehyung kept mumbling no as his eyes became tearful, making Wine want to laugh at his cuteness. Give me a good reason why you don't want to marry me. Her dark, soulless gaze bored into his tone. You people. He was shaking, yet he managed to speak the truth. You'll be doing it too once you get to know about their reality. Emotionless. I know your reality, so should I? You? Even he did not know how he found the guts to say this to her, and the terrified gasp of few people around him told him that it was a wrong move. If you knew my reality, then you would be loving me back. Her calmness upon his disobedience shocked everyone in the room, as till now, no one had made it out alive after this point. This is not love, this is madness. Love is madness, then. Her expressions turned dark. Please don't do this. I don't want. You'll say yes. Or I'll make sure everyone you care about pays the price. One by one, your all loved one will be gone until you lose your most precious one. Taehyung's blood ran cold. She wasn't bluffing. He could see it in her eyes. The dangerous obsession, the lengths she would go to if he resisted further. I do. His lips quivered as he let out the words, as if he was under hypnosis. See, was this hard?